Why is the jury laughing?
Zero chance of winning the game.
Supposed to talk glamour to you.
My grandmother's sitting home watching Jerry Springer.
Lee, is there any way I could have your jacket?
This is my island.
Welcome back to Survivor Breakfast, boys. We have made it to the merge episode, 2-hour episode tonight. Very exciting stuff. I'm your host, Sim, joined as always by Toast and Kale. Boys, I thought this was a great merge episode. This is really exciting. Finally get everybody together. How are you guys feeling after this episode?
To see the interdynamics of all these little mini relationships that were being formed, created, somewhat formed from, these journeys that everybody went on. It was spectacular to watch, almost to a point where, somewhat tough to follow who was talking to who, when, and what, and where, and why, how. So, Toast, what do you think?
Well, I was just going to say, it's interesting because, obviously this feels like a merge episode, right? Like it felt like a merge boot, a bad one, but it did feel like a merge because everyone's talking. But interestingly, Jeff would disagree. He waited for Lydia to walk out the door, looked to make sure she was out of earshot, and said, "You've made the merge." So it wasn't really the merge, but we all know it was the merge.
It was the merge, yeah. I will say, yeah, I agree with you there, Kale. I think the edit was a little messy tonight, but let's get into it. We're gonna go right into the meat here. We're gonna talk about this. The new merge twist this season, right? So they bring back this hourglass, the idea of them competing to get into the merge and the ability to reverse it. The changes this season that we're seeing from last season, I for one, am happy that they're tweaking it. They're trying to find a good way to do this. So the changes that they make to this merge twist here is that we still have the hourglass, but they get a little bit more warning this time around, where they're told, hey, whoever you send to this thing gets, some advantage. They don't say what it is, but it's a big game-changing advantage. And they have the option to send one of themselves, one of the winners who's in the merge, to the island to try to gain this advantage, except they lose all the benefits of winning this merge reward challenge here. What do you boys think of this twist, Kale? I'll post to you first. What do you think of the changes from last season? How do we feel about this?
I think they took a step back, tried to analyze how they could, reconfigure this twist. But my feelings on stuff that, I don't think necessarily works in the slightest. And at the end of the day, Rocksroy can try to say, which reason that he could, that it was this alliance that he was saving whomever and whatever his true thoughts were. But at the end of the day, he was protecting himself, and he had to end up flipping. So,
yeah,
and
you can't blame him for that.
No. But it's a twist that they tried to redisguise in a way that it was very interesting how everybody picked it apart when the dust had settled.
Totally.
And
totally
it was and how everybody picked up on the fact that Jeff really leaned into this fact that
no,
it didn't make a difference in the slightest.
No, I'm agreeing with you. I think it's quite frankly absurd that they were able to predict something like that was happening. I just don't
Queen
think
Drea.
Drea called it out. She said, "Well,
So
what if he
wild.
can reverse the changes?"
So wild.
I was astounded.
But listen, the changes as it reflects last season, right? The differences between this season and last season, insufficient. The amount that they tweaked, insufficient. And what I viewed it as was Jeff taking something that was not working, and he received the blame for it from castaways like Danny, right? He took the brunt of the blame. And what we saw tonight, in my opinion, was a way for Jeff to shift the blame towards the contestants rather than this poor game mechanic. Unfortunately, there's no way to get around it other than that. Truth be told, because Jeff is doing everything he can right now to manipulate the scenario to get the result that they want. He wants them to smash the hourglass, but he wants to do it in a way where they had the option to do otherwise. Mm-hmm. And the option doesn't exist. It's a false choice. So, I can go into a little bit further just to go through. Jeff says, we tweak 3 variables. All right, let's look at these variables. One, the merge feast, which was food last time, is still food this time, but this time it's Applebee's.
Not a tweak. That's not a tweak.
Second tweak, we're going to let them know that there's power, right, on Exile. Everyone already knew that there was power on Exile when they sent Erica, because if you look back at that merge discussion, they were like, Erica might come back with something. Sydney was actually the one that said, we might need to vote for Erica. Erica might come back from something from Exile. This isn't their first rodeo. They know that on Exile there are things to be found. That's not a variable that was changed, okay? Yep. And then third, the only variable that actually was changed was being able to take that power if you won, right? Mm-hmm. But if you ask me what the biggest variable was that was different, was Jeff talking the entire challenge. He was hyping up Applebee's like it was the best possible thing that they could get. He wanted to make sure that the person, I mean, I'm not trying to be, accusatory, but he wanted to make it a very difficult decision for the winning tribe to sacrifice this reward. Yeah. He was saying it's the biggest reward of the season, the best reward of the season, over and over and over again. I mean, it was like almost like subconsciously telling the players to not give up this thing, right? I mean, is that not the biggest variable that changed?
Look, I totally agree with everything you guys are saying. I do not think that these tweaks are enough for this particular thing. I do think it is a slight improvement over last season, but agreed, it's not enough. Do you guys think that it would have been enough of a change if he had said, maybe not outright, he's going to have a choice to flip this, but if he had said, you guys might be in danger with this advantage that whoever goes gets?
Are you talking pre or post the challenge?
No, once it's like you can make a decision.
Yeah, post the challenge when they're making a decision. If he hadn't just said, there's a game-changing, thing. If he had said, there is an advantage that might put you guys in danger.
Listen, if that may have added more drama that was actually palpable at that point, because again, I'm just sitting there for close to, how long was Rocksroy on that island? 45 minutes of the episode?
Enough for him to build a pretty good shelter.
No, it was impressive. It was very impressive, and
he was having a real moment out there. I think he enjoyed it more than he's enjoyed this entire game so far.
He called out his wife, too. It was like he got a lot of heat on Twitter. He called out his wife, and he got a lot of heat on Twitter.
Nagging me out here. Bro,
he was bossing himself around. Tied in not Rocksroy. He's talking to himself the entire time.
That's true. But what I will say is something that you... What I will say is something that you've talked about a lot, Toast, is that you kind of want to go and experience the survival aspect of what these people go through out in Fiji. I think that was epitomized what something like that could look like. So,
yeah. And Rocksroy also wanted to go back. He landed back on the merge beach, and he's like, I want the boat to take me back. I was happy where I was, like.
Well, you know what? I think that's really just a true testament to how he struggles in the social setting. I mean, he just purely struggles in the social setting. And I don't know if you saw his vote tonight, but he went. I think he was the Lindsay vote. So I don't know what he's doing.
I don't know what he's doing.
How many letters did he get wrong in that name? He spelled Lindsay I've never seen Lindsay spelled before. It's like not even, if you wanted to sound it out, that's not what would have been produced on the parchment. I don't know how he came up with that.
So much for him being the,
Can I just break it down real quick? I think it's Lynzee. I'm like, what?
I don't know what he's doing.
Never seen this name before?
I don't know
what to tell you. He's a stay-at-home dad.
But to wrap up my point on your question, Sim, is that if they truly understood the danger that they were in from, the immunity standpoint of what was happening here, that would have added, and then they cut to a commercial, and that would have added a lot of drama. And then they could fight over who wants to go, who doesn't want to go, who really wants to eat. Yeah. Because the real shame in this whole twist, and that's why it's, again, to me, it's another twist that you completely have to eliminate, is that you're wasting an hour of time because it's a no-brain decision for Rocksroy or for anybody that goes to this island. And it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer for the audience at home.
Yeah. I mean, I think the fact that it was Rocksroy actually making that decision, based on his previous decisions, which we knew was not really well thought out. The fact that he was able to suss out how clear of an advantage it is to just smash the thing. I mean, if anyone were to mess this up, let's be real. If anyone were to make a poor decision,
second, there was 30 seconds there where I was like, he could go the other way. When he was like, they won it fair and square. I was like, oh, he's not gonna.
Oh
do
my
it.
god, yeah, that was like
honestly, Sim, you do have a good point, but that was to me. It was only 5 seconds.
No, it was quick, and then I flipped.
It was
back.
only 5 seconds, but that's. But you made a great point, Toast. Is that like again they got lucky that it was Rocksroy and maybe the only person that could have flip flopped that in the wrong way. But even he could suss out and make an excuse and say, "Oh shit, my alliance were the ones that I'm saving, quote unquote." But at the end of the day, he's saving himself.
And there's no shame in that. There's no shame in that.
No, there's absolutely no shame in that.
The hourglass will be smashed if the person smashing it gets immunity. The hourglass will not get smashed if the person who were to smash it would lose immunity. It's that simple. There's no other way to look at it. So it's just like we can look at this but also to the point, right? Like so I will give them credit for changing the variables in something like the savvy or sweat problem, which tipped the scales towards something else. We talked about it, but they changed 2 of the variables, which is a little bit too much. They really forced it in that direction, right? In this case, it was another forced thing because we were, as the viewer, I think, tricked into believing that there was options. There were options that were available to the players. There weren't any options because in reality, nobody is going to sacrifice that feast after Jeff drills it into their head that this is the best thing that they've been waiting for their entire time here, right? No one's changing it. And if the person, like, if you think about what they want, the producers, if someone were to step up and say, I'll go take this advantage, it's not an advantage to them. It's a defensive maneuver to go to the island. They're not gaining anything. They're keeping the status quo.
Well,
that's all it is.
I have to ask. It was my understanding that if somebody from the winning side chose to go to the island, they would lose their immunity, not realizing that they could gain their immunity back.
No, I don't think so.
I think absolutely. He said you lose all of these things, but not knowing what the advantage wouldn't have changed to not give them immunity back.
So okay. And
they would have lost immunity and then gotten it back by smashing it.
Yeah, but then that makes it even less of a decision.
Yeah.
I mean, that takes away.
Absolutely. No, I agreed.
Because at this point, you have immunity.
That's also how it works.
It makes just as little sense to have immunity and then actively give it up as it does to not change the fact that you don't have immunity to then having immunity. So no matter what, it's a false choice. I mean, this is determined. Like this is not. There is no choice in this.
Well,
situation.
I think for all of our benefit, the nice thing is for this and probably the Beware advantage, you can't really have this in future seasons without massively changing them because now everybody has seen the seasons. Everybody knows now.
Jeff is gonna say start, and no one's gonna move. No one's
I want to lose.
Say, okay, ready, go. No one's gonna run to the ball and start digging it out. Everyone's gonna say, you know what? Actually, I'm gonna just chill right here.
So Jonathan almost lifted the ball out of the hole by himself.
Oh my god, yeah, that was wild.
He almost goes, you know what? Let me see if I can lift this motherfucker out of the hole.
I will say about the challenge, I know Jonathan is the absolute beast, but I feel bad for Mike because he's also killing it in these challenges, and I think he would actually be getting a lot more attention for his challenge performances if it were not for Jonathan and the absolute demigod.
If I'm Mike, I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I mean you've got that meat shield in front of you if people start going for the strongs. I wanted to quickly talk about too. What do you guys think about their decision to send Rocksroy over Lindsay here? Is that just a no-brainer?
It was a no-brainer when I tweeted out. It was Rocksroy's worst nightmare that Tori was on the winning squad.
Yeah.
It was a no-brainer.
it was 3 Takus picking a Taku. It was 2 Takus picking another Taku. No, I mean
absolutely.
And listen, I don't know if I've ever seen a rivalry portrayed, talked about, and seen through one. I mean, it was a 2-hour episode, so it was longer than the regular episode. But this Tori Rocksroy thing was played out and spoken about 50 billion times tonight. No.
Yeah.
I was ready to say someone owes someone a merge buff after the end of this episode, but we'll get into the immunity.
A great line was Rocksroy like thinking about 2 of his allies that he could save. And then he was like, wait, but there's the Tori factor. I loved that line, because it's like, well, what do you mean? Like, you're against her and you're about to take away her immunity. Isn't that like what you want? But it was just funny that like there was like almost like an implied understanding between him and the viewer that like, oh, the Tori factor. And we'd all be like, oh yes,
of course,
the Tori
factor. Well,
you must consider it.
You better believe this episode's getting named the Tori Factor.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, lock it in.
All right. Well, Rocksroy gets sent off to the island. The winners go and eat some well-deserved Applebee's. Looked pretty good, actually. I'm not really a huge fan of Applebee's, but it looked okay. Losers go off, and they actually get some rice as a consolation prize, which is nice. Sorry.
Yeah,
Toast,
just a quick point. If you were on the island, okay, and you were to say something like you just said, where Applebee's is just okay, you will not get the confessional. Everyone should be striving for the Applebee's confessional. The person who says that they love Applebee's the most gets the confessional.
When was the last time they had
Applebee's paid for that spot?
Well, that's what I was just about to ask, because they've done away with that for
season 39. They did it.
Season 39, they had it.
Yeah, they did Applebee's too. Yeah.
Oh, they did Applebee's.
Karishma started talking about like.
Well, they used to. What they have back in the day, Outback.
Outback was the best, because that was Heroes versus Villains and Kage-on, both Outback. 2 great seasons.
Yeah.
2 great feasts.
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest. If I hear Outback, I'm ecstatic. Bloomin' Onion, sign me up. Oh my god.
I'd rather Outback.
I'd much rather Outback. Okay.
But again, don't say that. Don't say that.
A nice bloomin' onion.
Well, so people are on the beach. They're starting to make some moves. We're seeing some initial alliances starting to form. Chanel, we get some clips of Chanel really feeling out of the loop. She's walking into conversations. People are dispersing instantaneously. We even get that clip of Chanel walking up to one of the conversations and like hi to try to make her feel good. Is like, yeah, we were talking. We were thinking of aligning. Does that sound good to you? And it's just a clip of Chanel and just doesn't respond. And they go, all right, well, we'll go fish, I guess. And she just doesn't say anything.
But that was the second iteration.
Yeah. That was bizarre. But
that was the second iteration, and Jonathan goes, "All right, let me spearfish again." The same comment that he made.
They go. This time we can't just break up immediately because that was super awkward and obvious.
It did the same thing. It was incredibly awkward.
4 seconds of silence is all Jonathan needs, and he's like, "I'm gonna go fish.
I gotta go fish."
Right, there's a spear over there. There's fish in there.
Listen, can we break this down for a second here, because this was the formation of what they were calling the eight,
the initial
grouping,
8,
right?
What the hell? Like, what 8 is like the worst like possible number?
Yeah, why would you pick 8 as your thing?
Well, okay, but who was the 8? So it was Lydia,
exactly,
Mike. So those 3 from
no. Just go by who was not in the 8. Marianne.
Yeah. Tori.
Chanel. Tori. And Rocksroy, who was just not accounted for.
No, Romeo.
Yeah, you're right. Romeo. Right?
Yeah, which was very curious when Drea went about that, bringing in Rocksroy. Honestly, I think it comes down to the analysis of how we perceive Rocksroy of being the shield of him being predictable to a certain extent.
Yeah, he's Drea's Lydia.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's easy.
He's the extra vote that you tell.
But she
what
dropped
to do.
Romeo real quick.
Yeah,
and
then
then
you've already got an alliance of 8. You can't like. I think if I'm Drea, I'm like, well, I can't be like, hey, can we make it 9, please? It's already not. We'd already rather have 7.
Yeah,
But Romeo also wasn't even in the conversation as people who were outside of the 8 that were available to get voted out, right?
Yeah.
Even in the beginning before everyone swapped, right?
Yeah. No, he was. He was vulnerable before they swapped.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying when he was vulnerable, he wasn't being mentioned.
Yeah, he wasn't even discussed as somebody to
even
vote
though he
out.
wasn't in the 8.
I just feel. I don't know. They were locked at the hip for the last 2-3 episodes. Romeo and Drea.
I don't think
so. I felt that was weird. No.
No, for sure weird.
Yeah,
and I actually didn't even think about it as much as until you just mentioned it. But yeah, definitely weird.
No, and I get your point.
As we thought. I think.
Yeah, no, and I get your point, Sim. But I want to. I guess I just want to dig into why that is. I guess we won't. We'll be soon to find out why that might be.
See if that alliance comes back or not.
Yeah. Well, so what I would just say is like we get to the beach, right? And the way I see it is that everything is like in an equilibrium, right? To start, it's like not chaotic yet. It's like 4-4-4. Rocksroy's not there. Doesn't really
Loved
change
it.
too much of the dynamic. And
Loved it.
the first person to make a move here, right, is High. And I love this line that he said. He's like, I am trying to establish agency, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm picturing like this like very like organized, like harmonious system that High then just like changes one little variable and then everything starts going, right? Because High is the one who really catalyzes this entire group talk that leads to the 8, right?
Yeah, he absolutely created the 8.
We get some conversations between all 3 of the amulet holders. We get conversations between multiple of the Beware Advantage holders. This is what's starting here. Okay, and like High is the one that actually initiates this. High and Drea seem to have gotten along swimmingly. They just, you know, the entire time they seem to be in lockstep.
But a big catalyst in this 8-person coming together too. You know, a guy that you guys have been loving, and not to say that I haven't been, but again, I think Mike.
Yeah.
Was making these mini relationships with Jonathan.
Yep.
And just what you just talked about with the Beware Advantage with Drea as well.
Yep.
I mean, Mike's just a likable guy overall, I think, to be honest with you. And his little mini relationships were a big catalyst to, I don't even know if he reported those back to High. And we, you know, in his breakdown right after Tribal at the beginning of the episode, he says he'd take a bullet for High and Lydia. I mean, again, this ties
although
into
Mike does say
He
later,
shot a bullet at Lydia in the end.
yeah, I mean,
Right? I mean,
he ended up.
but didn't High also vote for Lydia in the end?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
he in the episode though, when Omar goes to, we'll talk about it as we get there. But when Omar is trying to convince, High and Mike says, "Look, I don't want to, but High, I'm gonna go with you here. Like if I have to pick between the two of you, I'm gonna pick High." So that's
Yeah.
clear. But I think
Precursor.
at least still express loyalty.
I think Mike also
right?
did a great job. Those micro, relationships, Kale, I think is the perfect point there. He did it with Jonathan. Jonathan, I would say, is a macro relationship, honestly. They seem like boys now. But
Yeah.
he even did it with Omar. He had that really nice little short heart-to-heart with Omar as well,
Yeah.
which seemed really great. But
Yeah, it's the B. That's the B line, right? Like there's the A plot, right, and the B plot. Like the A plot was High orchestrating large swaths of people, right? Like people all with their own agendas and everything like that. And then like in the background, you have Mike making these
inroads.
making these good inroads, exactly, with like people from different areas. I just it has to be pointed out, right? He's doing a really good job there.
Yeah, I think he continues to impress me with his social game. I'm loving it. But so these are kind of the seeds being planted for later in the episode here. But before we get into that pre-tribal scramble that we're really going to dive into, I want to talk about Rocksroy on the island decides, surprise, surprise, smash the hourglass here.
Yeah.
We get to this immunity challenge, and Jeff reveals, hey, Rocksroy had the choice to smash this thing, and he did. Everybody drop your buffs. Other 5, you guys get your buffs, and you guys are competing now. I don't think anybody was really surprised here, but I was pretty interested in how people were interpreting that in front of the group and responding to that, because we've got some more positive things where High's trying to keep it neutral, which we love. We've seen from Omar in the past keeping that neutral, and we've got the more hot take from Tori being like, essentially, how could you do this to me?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is exactly what Jeff wants, where the players are either okay with it like High or blaming the person who breaks the hourglass. The person who breaks the hourglass deserves no blame. I'll say that.
No,
I'll say that out loud.
absolutely not.
Zero blame. But this is exactly what Jeff
Jeff
wanted.
was setting up his walls so that if another contestant said, hey, Jeff, this is bullshit, then he just goes, I gave you the choice.
Yeah, exactly. Which is just not true. The
But he
choice
didn't.
was not there. This was the illusion of free will. I mean, if Tori Factor is not the name of the episode, illusion of free will may be, because it's like there was no free will. There was no choice to be made. And just another point about that. Tori, right, like immediately takes the bait here, right? Tori just like immediately attacks Rocksroy in front of everybody.
You can't
like,
be doing
which is
that.
like a completely Tory move, right? Like to just be like,
she had a tough
I did this
episode
for
overall.
you. She, of course, every
Tough
episode is a tough episode, but I love it. But immediately in front of everybody, like she's like, we did this for you, and now you're taking this from us. I mean, Rocksroy had a very contrived answer for why he did it, but in reality, all he needed to say was, "I was not immune, and now I am. I'm sorry."
Yeah, like I
Like,
had to do
I'm
it.
sorry.
I mean, and
That's
also like it's so transparent, obviously transparent to the group when Tori makes that argument of like, we did this for you. It's like, okay, no, you didn't. Like, of course you didn't. But so the people who were safe end up having to compete, and Tori pulls it out. And before
Big
this,
win. She
had to.
the
She
two
had to.
names
Big win.
are Chanel and Tori. Tori pulls this out. And now the two people that everyone's been talking about on the beach, Tori and Chanel, are both safe because of the flip and the immunity challenge. And now we have to scramble. The scramble is upon us. It's not clear cut anymore. We don't have this easy vote that everyone's cool with. We've got to figure it out. And before this, like we talked about, High has been making a lot of visible moves, pulling people together, doing that stuff. And now other names are being thrown out. We've got other people trying to make some moves as well. We've got Omar trying to push people in his alliance into that safe zone because he doesn't want Jonathan voted out. Jonathan's name starts getting tossed around. Kale, what are your thoughts about this scramble and the Omar versus High kind of butting heads?
You guys are gonna hate this statement as I continue to be a season.
It was all Drea.
team for
It was
me.
all
No.
Drea.
I'm just. I want to applaud the casting of the season once again.
Oh my god!
I'm sorry. I have
dude.
to.
Kale's
I
hands
have
are going to
because-
fall off after all this applauding every week. Every week.
Dude,
I'm just-
are you
but just take-
Are you kidding?
just
This
just
is a
take a
joke.
step. Just take a step back and compare and contrast this to, a season like One World, where you just have duds riddled throughout.
But I mean,
No,
this is
my point in saying this is that
I can guess your point. You've made it 10 times.
no. But you look at how this is all going to unfold, and you have forward-thinking gameplay by multiple different characters here, and they're not just following along. The one caveat that I do want to say on the season is that there's been a lot of these straightforward votes, and it even looks like it became a pretty straightforward vote, even though I guess the vote itself was a little wishy-washy, but Lydia still was the defining factor that I guess Omar and High, who were these two figureheads, throughout this process, came together and came to the agreement that at the end of the day, I'm sorry, it just had to be Lydia. And it ends up being straightforward. And we're losing a little bit of drama at Tribals. What was the vote? I'm sorry. The Jenny vote was the most epic tribal council that we've had so far. But outside of
Absolutely.
that, Tribals themselves and actually the outcomes of Tribals really haven't been too dramatic
Yeah.
just yet. And I'm really hoping that it's an explosion that's building up and bottlenecking into what will be crazy at this quote unquote final 8. But all of this is a testament to that there's strong characters throughout, and that's my point. And
All right,
now
all right,
they're getting rid of the Lydias. What seems that hopefully the Rocksroys will be next to go, and that's just how I feel.
Well, I think
All
Kale.
right.
I
You
think,
could cut me off. You could cut me off. I was
gonna say. Let me pick up the pieces here, Simbi. After Kale's monologue on the cast again, let me get back to what you were asking. Just because, Kale, I agree with you. I'm giving you some shit. Obviously, I give you grief all the time. But we know what you think.
fucking
about the cast.
bullshit.
We know what you think about the cast.
You've only said it
Moving
4
on-
times, Kale.
Yeah. Moving on to what Simbi was saying, right? So. So we
I'm sorry. Do you not
you
feel?
got it.
Do not
You made
feel?
it.
No,
You made
do
the
not
point.
feel the drama. The drama at Tribals have been lacking. It's something.
Yeah,
It's something
that's
that I am
fair.
truly missing from
That's
this
fair.
season.
That's
Absolutely.
fair. Okay. No, yeah, you make a fair point.
Has nothing to do
Alright.
with casting, but agree.
But that's
Okay.
my point. That's my point. I don't want to say it's a casting issue.
Hey, we got it. So back to what we were talking about, just to get back on track with this, because it's in my head right now. I want to get it out. So Hai has initial control. He establishes agency, right? Now we in that Hai establishing agency, there's an important conversation that happens between Hai and Omar, and Hai, who has been subtly, I say subtly, but pretty much overtly trying to undermine Chanel this entire time by saying that you should not be divulging information to her, says out loud that she lost her vote. It takes, but 2 minutes for Omar to realize that if she lost her vote, then I lost my vote too.
Yep.
And it's so beautiful that this happened this way, because then now he has the ability to test Chanel's trustworthiness. Because when he does have this conversation with Chanel afterwards, he's waiting for Chanel to admit to this. And the fact that she doesn't is very telling.
That was a really smart play by him too.
Oh my God, brilliant.
90% of people's first reaction is going to go to Chanel and be like, wait, you lost your vote? And he said, no, let me hang back and let me get some more information here. And I
Exactly.
thought it's another huge check mark in Omar's social game column.
So he's able to take one piece of information and gain more information from it, right? Which is such a cool thing to be able to do, because now he has this leverage on someone that they don't know that they have against them, right? Chanel doesn't know that Hai told Omar that she didn't have a vote, which then allowed him to know that if he went to talk to her and she withheld that information, that she was being actively, duplicitous, deceitful towards him, So it was really cool to see that. But the reason why I bring it up is because Omar uses that logic, right? I don't have a vote, right? First he says, so now we're after everything. Tori has won immunity. We're back on the beach. Hai, who has established agency, is now going to get a little bit of tug back, right? Omar, who originally says out loud, I don't have a vote, therefore I'm going to hang back. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. Realizes that, you know what? No, I'm safe. And if the way that things are going right now would be negatively impacting my game, Jonathan's name should not be brought up right now. How do I get involved and change the vote, right? And then we see it happen. We see him go to work.
Well, something that I was interested in too is that we get a confessional from Hai where he's like, people are starting to go after the strong people, and I consider myself one of the strong people. But do you think that Hai is coming off like that to the other players? Because I haven't gotten that vibe, at least.
Well, no, I do think he's one of the more physical fit. I think we've been seeing that since day one, to be honest.
He definitely has strong will, he's a vocal.
For sure.
Yeah, and he's also one of the more confident people that kind of knows that he's steering the game in a certain direction. To that point, though, Sim, I think that's the defining factor in why he ended up leaning to go the way that he did today. I think he said, you know what, I'm not gonna rattle the tree a little bit too much here, and fight this Lydia thing when I am gaining a few allies here by doing it this way, inclusive of holding on to Jonathan in front of me. And here at the end of the day. You go to a couple seasons like the Blood versus Water seasons, and when you're running through seasons with duos, it usually lends itself that the people that lose their duos early, they're able to navigate as a free agent a little bit more, and the spotlight's not on them as much anymore. So
we saw that in both seasons, right? In both Blood versus Water seasons. So that's a good point.
with Tyson and with Natalie. So, this is obviously completely different, but they were viewed as a duo, and
they presented themselves as a duo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Hai can navigate a little bit more freely here, and the spotlight shifts. The Ika heads are going to go at each other, and the Taku heads are going to go at each other now. So it's really just Hai and Mike and then the Chanel. I mean, Chanel was beaten and battered by Hai. Hai was going all over the place, and it was brutal. She couldn't catch a break. But yeah, I was thoroughly impressed by Omar taking a step back and saying, "Hey, I'm going to sit back, but you know what? Keeping Jonathan's really good for me." But then almost again, I think Hai realized at the end of the day, keeping Jonathan's also good for him too. So
I think we saw a lot of really great plays in this scramble, and I think we saw a lot of great indications of people. Like, obviously, we've talking a lot about Omar. His plays were great. I think something that really was a positive for me on High's side too was he had that agency earlier in the episode where he's doing all that work and he was doing that stuff. But it seemed clear to me that once he saw the tide shifting a little bit, he was willing to take that step back and be like, oh, I don't necessarily need to control this vote because it's still going to go. Like, the fact that he was willing to take that step back after having all that agency earlier, I think is huge. I think there's a lot of people who get that feeling of, oh, I'm pulling people together. And then as soon as somebody else says, no, the vote's going to change, they go, no, because they want to keep that agency.
sure.
I think
Listen, I think he tried.
Let go
I think
of that.
He did
Sure,
try.
of course. You wanted to keep it on track. He doesn't want to lose one of his allies,
Yeah.
of course. But the fact that he was willing to step back, I think that shows a lot of flexibility that I think a lot of people don't have.
Yeah.
In that same vein, Kale, I have to say, I was very impressed with Drea this episode. Where my biggest complaint with Drea this season has been how seemingly headstrong and vocal and in the spotlight she has been. And it seemed like this episode, she very much was willing to sit in the background, which I was very happy to see for her gameplay. It seemed like she wasn't, she contributed when she needed to. When they ran across a problem like Omar not having a vote, she was like, you know what? I trust you guys. I have an extra vote. So if we need that, we can still do that stuff.
Is that necessarily a good thing to just say to people that you just met today?
No, not necessarily. But I was impressed with her being able to hold back. I didn't know. If you had asked me this last week, I wouldn't have thought that she would have that gear, honestly.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
fair.
and you can look at it two ways, and because I actually do thoroughly agree with you there. That's no surprise, but she builds trust with Omar by doing that. Omar feels good, but it's not going to take people long to connect the dots and say, wait, she's got an extra vote. Mike knows that she has an idol, and the Amulet people know that she's a part of the Amulet crew.
Yeah, it's going to start coming.
So to me, Drea's in the boat that the longer she gets by, the better she's looking because of all the ammo she has. So it's I had as we'll see later, I have her on my stock report tonight because she made it through this episode. But I think she's on high alert every episode moving forward because that spotlight can be flashed on her in the blink of an eye.
Yeah. So Simi, I agree with you, Kale. I do. Simi, to your point, the fact that she has that gear is nice, but I do think that it was easy for her to shift into that gear based on where she found herself initially on the beach, where she has somewhat of a preordained relationship with High, where she seemed to be like comfortable the entire time. Like there was no point where she was put to any stress test, right? Which Kale, I'm sure you would agree with too, right? Which is the point, right? You're happy she got through this episode without having that heat because she really didn't have any obstacle in her way, And then Kale, to throw a bone to you, right? Like as talking about casting, right? All these players that are here to play. It really is interesting to see someone, and in this case it's High, who puts their foot down, says, I will not vote for Lydia. I will draw rocks. And then 3 episodes later, he's writing Lydia on a piece of parchment and sending her home.
Ready to go.
Send her to the house, as Keith would say. Send her to the house. So that's interesting. That's like that means that there are people that are here to play. Like we all know High is one of those people, but it does show the level of gameplay that someone would be willing to make such
and that's
crazy
just my
move.
point. That's just my point. If you we fast forward years later, and the fact that we ever put out seasons like One World is what I'm talking about, or Nicaragua. The fact that seasons like that were ever put out, when you can put together a group of high caliber players all together, and then you have high caliber personalities, like Jonathan has this multi-dimensional is a multi-dimensional character to his physicality, to his social game, and then you have a guy like Mike who's on the older side, but he seems to be the darling of the entire group. I love it. And that's not even talking about Omar and High, who stole the show tonight in terms of strategy. So
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. It's just
I know. Kale, come on. Well, who am I if I'm not going to give you shit?
The depth is palpable. So, just from that last point on the Drea thing, to what you're just saying right there. Yeah, she hasn't been put to the stress test yet, and that's going to truly be when she's put, on the stand per se. Mm-hmm. How does she fold or does she prevail?
Yeah.
But I think it's to somewhat of her skill that she hasn't really been put into that situation.
True. It could speak to that. It could
Absolutely.
speak to that.
Well,
She
I
really
think-
has it. She.
Something I'm very interested to see in these future episodes. I know the preview showed a little bit of chaos going on, but for all intents and purposes, they should have a couple of more straightforward votes. I mean, the two people they primarily wanted to get out, they couldn't this week, and they should have a shot at least one of them next week.
Yeah, but
obviously we see some clips of people scrambling, but
Yeah.
You want to hear my hot take?
Yeah.
well, let Toast get his point out.
Well, no, I think it's gonna ensue that way unless one of them wins immunity.
You think
I
just
think we're
trying to stir up a little in the edit kind of thing?
No, I think we're gonna have a couple straightforwards here, and then it's gonna bottleneck into an explosion. At least that's what I'm hoping.
I mean,
for.
I'm excited for that. I'm happy to have one or two straightforward votes and then things start going wild.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, it would be
everyone
good
that's-
if it explodes in a dramatic way.
Lydia leaving tonight was the path of least resistance for everybody. I think it's
Yep.
if you take a 10,000-foot view, right, and look at this episode, it was a 2-hour episode in which a twist failed and Lydia went home, right? That's what it was.
Which isn't much.
Which isn't much. It's
No,
not
no,
that much.
100%.
There was a lot. There was much ado about nothing. To be honest,
Yeah.
Lydia went home. Honestly, I wasn't upset. I'm like, okay, Lydia's out of the game.
Yeah.
Like one less pawn for Hai to have in his arsenal, but really no, not that much of a difference as
No
far
harm, no
as
foul.
characters that we're losing out on.
I'm gonna
Yep.
be honest though too. I probably would have felt fairly similar if Marianne went home. Like I don't know that I mean I'd be a little bit sadder because I like her a little bit more as a character, but like I think it's a similar outcome if
Yeah,
Marianne
but
goes
the
home.
true difference there is that she's still a wild card with an extra vote and an idol. So
Yeah.
That's true.
know.
But her not playing, I would like to talk about that a little bit. Her not playing the idol, Omar's looking at her like she's nuts. Omar's like, play the fucking idol. What are you doing?
I don't know if we could read into it. I understand that was what was being.
I mean, that
pushed,
was what
but-
the edit was showing us, of course, but
Yeah, I don't know if it was like that because he would have probably made it more apparent that he was unable to wrangle the votes.
I mean, he was doing that.
I know, but I mean, if
When
you
else
look,
would he
there
have
was
been
a-
doing that? I don't
there
think they
was
like cut
beat-
that from
there
a
was-
different scene.
Yeah, but I mean, there was a beetle on Rocksroy's shoulder, and then the next take, it's not on his shoulder, and then it's time for vote, and there's a beetle on his shoulder.
It wasn't like it was like a
No, but I mean, unless the beetle, is landing exactly on the same spot multiple times throughout the episode, we know that they're taking things from different things. Obviously, I'm being tongue in cheek, right?
Yeah.
But
Well,
I don't know if it's necessarily like that. Is what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, we've been talking about it, but the vote comes out. Lydia ends up going home. It looks like Omar convincing Hai and Mike is really the thing that did it, right? That's the straw that breaks the camel's back there.
Yeah, what
changing.
I really think it came down to is that when Omar approached Hai, which again, a great move on Omar's part too, because Hai comes
a risky move, a very risky move.
No, I understand that, but he must have read the room to the sense that he built a mounting wall of pressure to get Lydia out, and that was the final conversation that he had with Hai.
Yeah.
And Hai wanted to sway the tides back, but said, "Shit, this wall is already built.
Yeah.
There's not much I can do here. I really can't rock the boat. I just got to go with it."
Yeah,
And it's not like you're blindsiding Hai, which again, blindsiding Hai is where you're going to get on his bad side.
I agree.
So Omar did everything right tonight.
Yeah, he did with no vote. We saw
With no
The fact that he
vote.
did all that with no vote
With
is
no vote.
Well,
so
that's
impressive.
the thing because we have players who are very outright arrogant and cocky, like Chanel, who say, "I have the social game to dictate this vote without having a vote." Right, and we see how that went. Absolutely
Horribly.
nowhere for her. Horrible.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
we have Omar, who's being very humble with it. Actually weighs the pros and cons of how he wants to maneuver this situation without having a vote, and then totally gets his way without the vote. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it really is really cool. And Kel, I agree that the risk to go up to Hai is diminished if you know that you have the numbers already there, because in reality, all that's doing is saving face with somebody to make sure that they don't think that you're blindsiding them. It's really what it is. And it's a really smart thing to do if you are secure and trust that people are agreeing with you that that's the way it is.
Plus
Which
at
I
the end of
think
the day,
he sussed out.
Omar's going up to him without even really saying he's voting for Lydia anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I voted for Lydia. He didn't even vote for Lydia.
From an area of like, hey, I've got no skin in the game, but just so you know.
But here's my skin. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was the cool thing about what Omar was doing too, was that for most of the people, he didn't go up and say, you have to vote for Lydia here. That's the right thing. He was very much like doing the thing of like, hey, I heard people are kind of flipping on Lydia. Lydia's saying this thing. Like, he very much did it in a way that it wasn't, hey, I'm telling you what you should do. It was, hey, I'm just giving you a bunch of information. Come to whatever conclusion you want, and like I'll help you guide you there. You know what I mean? He was hitting everybody with the, when he went to high, it was specifically him going, hey, just so you know, like this is where the the thing is going. And then what's it called? With everybody else, he was doing the, hey, Lydia was kind of flip-flopping. I think she should go.
Yeah, which is the a good move on his part, right? Like it makes sense, and he navigated everything well. He really did. You know?
I hope it's a blessing in disguise with the fact that with everything you just talked about, that this was pretty much a nothing episode in the results of everything. If you look at it at a 10,000 foot level, because I really, really, really do want this to, turn into
crescendo.
Yeah, exactly. I want this to crescendo into, some madness, some pure madness.
We're concentrating active characters. By losing Lydia, we are concentrating players.
Which in a perfect world should become a scenario where there's ridiculous drama, ridiculous blindsides. I mean, I really want that. I want a really well played idol this season. That's all I want.
Yeah, I feel like
Kale's been begging
that's a
for
fair
it.
thing to want. Yeah.
All right. Well, so Lydia ends up going home here. End of the merge. She walks out. Jeff, once she's out of earshot, goes, and you're in the merge. Lydia doesn't make the jury. And that's kind of the end of the episode, end of Tribal. Let's hop into what we see for the future here. Now that we've merged, like, what's the stock report? What are we looking at for people, and how do we think this future is going to go?
The stock report for me, and I'll break it down from this episode quickly. Omar, I mean, what he did with the navigation without a vote was spectacular. I did, again, like I just said, every episode that Drea gets by, it really, really puts her in a perfect position. So I added her to the stock report. And then on the downtrends, it wasn't great for Tori and or Chanel. I mean, neither of them. I don't even think you could come away and say either of them have a straightforward ally. Who's one person you could pinpoint other than Romeo's conversation with Tori, which again to me came out of left field because I still don't understand where that really developed, other than us thinking that they would talk because of the pageant connection that they had preseason. It's never been brought up once. So unless when Romeo did say, you know me, you know what I'm all about. So I don't know.
Romeo's out here trying to coach Drea. He should be trying to coach Tori. Right?
Drea doesn't need it so far.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I think everybody is going to try to use Jonathan to their best ability. I mean, I think that's where this is all trending, and honestly, that could benefit Jonathan for the long run. Is that if everybody's going to have his back like they did tonight. I mean, he didn't really do too much scrambling that was shown to us from himself. I mean, everybody was coming to his defense all night long. So, and that's really out of utility for them. So, I really want to see where Mike truly aligns. If it's with High, that Mike relationship's going to be something that's pretty beneficial at the end of the day. But he made big relationships with a lot of people tonight that was under the radar, and I think he's a likable character. And Mike's prospects to winning, I don't know if I'm really truly there yet, but
can I take over here? Is that all right? Because it segues perfectly.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I I think I'm ready to fully differentiate here and commit to a winner. And I
Wow.
want to say it out loud. I'm picking Mike as my winner.
Wow.
I'm picking Mike as my winner. I know that we've gone through and we've talked about people, and I mean, I always allude to the fact that I like Mike. Simi, you and I have been on the same train. Kale, Mike is always in the conversation with who he aligns with. Tonight, I think, was enough for me. So can I just give, a couple of little things that make me think this? A lot of it is edit reading. So first, right when they step on the beach, first episode, Jeff says, "What does it take to win the game of Survivor?" And Mike gives a very thought out answer. And he says, the person who's best at all of the things in Survivor is the person who will win. And then, which obviously is a great answer, and then we cut to Zach, is the next person that gets asked the same question, and he answers with a non-answer, and he gets voted out right away, right? Right away.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
we're viewing this through Mike's lens right away. And, he's had so much visibility throughout the entire season. We all know that. We just try to figure out how to box him in. Is he the one dictating what's going on? Is the story being told through his lens? And tonight we saw a lot of the story get told through his lens. He said that he likes his interactions with Jonathan. It wasn't Jonathan saying, Mike is a good person to have around. It was Mike saying Jonathan is a good person to have around. And other things that are a little bit harder to pick up on, I think. One is that last season, Erica was a very under the radar winner. I think it probably goes along with the tweaks that Jeff is trying to introduce, that this might be a very visible winner. Someone who is not under the radar, someone who has been on our screens the whole time. And it is Mike, if that is the case, right?
All right.
And wait,
ahead.
can I just, a few more points and then feel free. Erica had one of the last montages in the season. Xander had one a little bit later than her in the finale, actually. But when Erica was on Exile Island, she had her montage. So one of the later ones. This season, Mike had one of the first ones, if not the first montage, right? I think that there's parallelism here. There's mirror imaging here that they're trying to produce with 41 and 42. I think that Mike fits the bill. Finally, last point. Tonight he had what can only be considered a winner quote, right? One of those things that we look for in an edit of a winner. He said, maybe it's time for one of these big boys, right? Talking about him and Jonathan, to win the game. Maybe it's time for one of the big guys to win. That screams winner. Does that not? I mean, does it not scream winner? It has to.
I hear everything. I hear everything you're saying, but what you're saying, there's two things that I think about. Makes me incredibly excited because I don't think he wins without complete explosions happening all over the place. Because that leads into my next point of what I'm thinking about here. How does that path look like for a win for him? That's what's slightly confusing. Other than the fact that I think he's got fantastic relationships.
Yeah,
so,
it's the A plot and the B plot, like we said,
yes,
right? Where the A plot has to implode for the B plot to then.
I
finally
understand
start
that,
making sense.
but my point in saying that is that from the get-go, he's been a deferring type of guy. He deferred to Jenny, he deferred to Daniel. He's been a deferring type guy, which can help you in a gameplay, but also doesn't help you when you really need to make big decisions and voting people out. So is this a situation where the battlefield settles and he's the guy still standing there? I mean, what do you envision?
He definitely has more agency than he's letting on, which is nice because it makes him a good ally and someone to rely on. We have to remember he has an idol. He has an idol, and he's not, in the target at all. I mean, obviously there are plenty of people that were not targets tonight, so that's not really saying much. But he does have some power to sway this game. And he does have reads on enough characters to be able to make that decision. And I think he would. I mean, he also is saying to Jonathan, right, I have to work extra hard because people see me and they judge me. I have to get ahead of that, right? So he's been doing his very best to ingratiate himself with the most amount of people because he knows he has a rough exterior. He's been successful at this throughout his whole life, is the way that it's being portrayed to us, right? Conveying himself appropriately to the people that he's around. I know that for our purposes, a lot of it seems like deferring, right, Kale? It's like he's the ally. He's the +1 in this two-person scenario. But I actually think that when the dust settles, he will be there. I
can envision what you're saying, but I Sim, I don't know if you feel the same way. Don't know if I see him leading a vote. I don't know if I see him taking charge, leading a directive on a vote. Not that he needs to do that to win this game, but I don't know if I see that in particular.
I hear you. I agree with you. I think if he is going to win this season, at some point he's going to need to turn it on. I don't think it's possible for him to just kind of putz to the end. And it's like, what is your plea to the jury sound like at that point?
He's made no enemies, and as long as he's more likable than the two people he's sitting next to, which, to be honest, is potentially a 100% chance because he's really likable. He might be one of the most likable people on the cast.
I would agree with you. I would agree with you there.
There's a lot of ways that you can get to the end without having a big move and being able to flaunt it to the jury.
That big move could be the idol play. Can be a fantastic idol play.
Well, let's also be clear too. Like if he's pairing up with High here, like Toast is right. A reasonable path here is High makes all the big moves. They make it to the final 3, and the person deciding says, "Well, I'm not." Or not to the final 3, but the person deciding for the final 3 is like, High is out of here because High's way too good of a player, and then Mike makes it through. Or another path is that if that pairing falls out of favor, people are going after High before they're going after Mike.
Yeah, and they're going after Jonathan before they're going after Mike, and they're going after Omar before they're going after Mike, right? Like, there's a lot of different configurations and permutations where Mike is just enough under the radar to the people he's around, but obviously to us, he's over the top, right? He's here, we see him do everything. But I think that there's plenty of scenarios where you can swap out an Omar for a High and the result is the same. If he's sitting next to someone like a Tori, in the end, he wins, obviously, without having to do a big move.
Yeah, but...
Or a Rocksroy.
What a dream scenario.
My point is that it's too early to get into this, and there's a lot of blank canvas on all the resumes of all these characters remaining right now.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
But Mike sitting next to High and Omar, I mean, I don't see that. I don't see that win for Mike there. Like, that's the situation that's going to be the final 3. I don't envision that to be the case either. But I don't see a Mike win in that scenario.
That's fair. I mean, I think personally right now, maybe the people that could win against anybody, right? There's obviously only one person that could win against every other person. I would probably say it's Omar right now. I think that Omar, if he's against any individual person, he would win. Just because if you put a High next to a Jonathan, High doesn't really have as much of a plea to the jury to say, I brought him here, right? Like Omar can say, like, Jonathan was my meat shield. I brought him all the way here to protect me. It was my doing. High doesn't really have that argument.
But listen, High giving up on Lydia tonight signed on to that package. He signed on to saying Jonathan is now my shield. I understand that, but that's just product of the circumstance that he wasn't on the tribe.
Yeah, but he lost in this scenario. He ended up doing something that he was forced into doing.
His interests.
I understand that, but I do think it could be beneficial from my point earlier with the blood versus water thing.
I get it. I get that.
I think I agree with you. I think Omar's that person. I do think High. Again, we're talking potential right now because again, a lot of these resumes have not been written.
Yeah. I'm
sorry. With all the ammunition that she has, I have to think that if utilized, Drea's in the conversation. I mean, if utilized, she cannot continue to escape without her name being actually written or talked about at all. I mean, other than it be promoted a little bit when the Ika was going to tribal, but it's really she's never really purely been a target.
I just don't really. For some reason, it could just be a read that I have that's
No, I think you're just anti me.
No. I like the read.
For who, Kale or me?
No, for you, Toast. I like this mic call. Thank you.
Oh no, I thought he was going to talk about he's anti-Drea.
I think this episode we should all be locking in official who we think is going to win this season.
Okay, well then I'm happy I brought it up because I think this
is the time. We've been with the characters. We've seen how they kind of interact with each other, but not enough to not make this a fun prediction right now.
Yeah.
Kale, who
And I
are you?
feel like-
Who are you? I'm gonna hold you to this, Kale. Who are you saying for your winner? Toast has
He's
Mike
not,
right now.
He's not.
How
gonna say
how
Drea.
can I configure this in a way where you can't hold me to this?
No,
Yeah, exactly.
This is gun to your head, Kale.
Or any of these players?
Who do you
on
think is going to
lithium?
win? Because preseason, according to your preseason predictions, it has to be high, because he's aligned with Mike.
Yeah. I really want Drea to win. I really, really, really want Drea to win, but my vote has to go with Omar right now with what we just said. I mean, it's a cop-out answer, I feel.
Which is
I don't think so.
it's-
I think
it's-
all
it's
evidence
fair.
points to him being a phenomenal player, and he's in a great
Yeah.
place. It's like,
Yeah. No, Kale.
Yeah,
I
but he
completely agree with
has
you.
no
It's-
arsenal. He has no arsenal, which again shown tonight that he can
Do it
he
with
can
nothing.
do he could
He
do
could do
with
it with
negative
nothing.
arsenal. With a
Yeah.
negative arsenal, he could still do things.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things that I'm waiting for these fireworks to ensue, because we're talking about how many extra votes are outstanding. Marianne, Drea,
And
and the amulet counts as one, so that's a third.
yeah, I feel like, is there another one out there? No, because the two journeys both failed. Two protects.
No,
then
because
two risks.
Jenny risked with Marianne and Drea.
No, yeah,
The other one was a
Jenny
failure,
protected.
and the other two were protected.
Yes, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's only two.
All right, so it's the
could be
two,
wrong.
then the one combined with the amulet, and
Yeah,
then
don't
it's
count
the
that though. But yeah,
all right, fine, but
Or
and
with,
then
like,
and
a
then there's
change within an
then there's the
episode.
3 idols.
yeah.
I mean, listen, Omar can't lay claim to any of them other than indirectly, like right now. But
Which is, I mean, Erica did the same thing last season.
he's laid the game. I mean, the way he orchestrated everything tonight was purely spectacular. I mean,
Yeah, it
Sam,
was beautiful.
where do you lean right now?
Well,
You still got Romeo in your corner?
Romeo's starting to fall out of favor a little bit, but I do still like my Tori Rocksroy bet after this episode. But I think
Take it. I'm happy.
it's really tough. It's a really tough decision, because totally agree, Kale. It's so reasonable to pick Omar here, but I do think it's inevitable for someone to go, who ran that whole vote? Like who did that? Like, it's inevitable for somebody to start picking up on that stuff if it happens,
Yeah.
especially if it happens again. Like, you can't be making plays like that all the time. I think it's really tough. It's like, the problem is I think I want to go with Mike. I really like the
Dude,
idea.
do not
of,
take mine.
I know it
No, I'm just
sucks,
kidding,
but I
man.
really do like that take.
Thank you.
You like very much like
Don't fucking
convince me,
stroke
but
his
I don't know
ego.
if I can go with that.
Chill. Wow.
But I mean, okay, so let me talk through this. Let me talk through where my brain is at right now. It's like, okay, Omar is definitely in the running.
Yeah.
Of course.
I agree that Mike is in the running. Who else
Yeah.
really has like a really good shot where we are right now?
High absolutely has a great shot.
High, but I think it's like, I think High right now, the way it's set up, might have less of a chance than Mike.
That's fine if you want to view it in that standpoint, but it seems to be that those two are going to are locked at the hip. And
Agreed, but if
for
people
High-
start
but
coming for those two, they're coming for High.
But they're not though. They're not. What High
Not
did
right now,
tonight.
but we're hoping for fireworks.
No, I
High
understand
was
that, and
way
High might get clipped from the fireworks. I
High
mean,
was
that
pretty
might
visible
happen.
today too. Like
He very visible. That's what I was about to say.
Very visible today.
He was very exposed. He was overexposed. He was. I mean, High can have the same trajectory as like a Ricard, right? He could get clipped right before. Like,
Yeah.
he could. That's a no-brainer. I also think that it should be noted that there is still a chance that Jonathan could just go completely balls to the wall
And just win
and just
every
take the whole thing
challenge.
home. Yeah, I think if
But
Jonathan,
we do have some indication that he's not good at puzzles. So there's puzzle stuff.
for sure.
Something,
We
Yeah,
have
but they're
something
also-
overtly
I want to
saying
be
he's
I want to
bad
be
at
clear
puzzles.
with what I'm about to say. That I do not think she has a chance of winning as of right now.
You're gonna say Lindsay?
I think Lindsay's in a pretty good spot.
Okay.
I feel like I don't really know
Nah, she's
like
got
one way or the other. Kind of.
You're talking
Not-
about Lindsay
not a
with
great-
the Z
not a
and
great
two
edit.
E's.
Yeah, two E's. But I'm interested to see how Tori keeps doing in these challenges. I'm worried. I think she's going to start winning a lot of. It's either Jonathan like she's been killing it in challenges too.
We've
Like
been
even
saying
from
this
day one, the run.
been saying
she was,
this from
she was
day
faster.
one.
She was faster than Jonathan.
You guys are really gonna sit here. Okay, hold on a second.
I'm not.
You guys are really gonna.
I preface this by I don't think she's gonna win.
No,
That
yeah.
was something that I did want to bring up.
I'm not even
though.
talking about that. The
I think
fact
she
that
could
you
win a lot of
cannot,
immunities.
neither of you can give Drea any credit. I mean, Sim, you did a little bit earlier, but is Drea not in your top
Drea has
three
gone
choices?
has gone up in my standings in my head for sure, but I like having all these advantages that like everybody's gonna know about within a week or two.
Yeah, no,
That's a huge problem.
I understand that, and that's what I'm saying. She needs to navigate episode by episode right now.
I don't think she has it.
My thing with
unfortunately.
Drea is if she can keep playing this, like backseat role and knowing when to move up and when to move back, I think she has a shot at it. But I don't know if that was just a this episode thing because she wasn't being tested, or if that's a continued thing. I think if I have to lock in a thing, I think I'm gonna lock in Mike with Toast. I think it's a combination of I think he's in a really good spot. I think there is a good chance of him winning, and
He likes my take, too.
I'd really like him to win. Well, Toast, your take was very
Can you stop
edit-driven. Let's
stroking
be
his
clear.
ego?
Which is fair.
Stop
That's
stroking
the
his
game.
ego.
Yeah, I guess I don't see the edit as clearly, I think, as you do in this scenario. I don't think
you
it's,
like the
I don't think it's,
mirroring. You liked
no,
that.
no, of
That
course,
was
of course I
poetic.
do. Of course I do. But
Okay.
but I don't know that it's like, oh, it's so obvious that the edit is putting him way ahead of everybody else. I think
No, but the
No,
winner's
there's
quote
other
was
people
nice,
edits
right? You heard-
that have great stuff in it too.
for sure, but you like the winner's edit. I mean, the winner's quote tonight, right? You like that?
that was-
Omar's edit's been just as spectacular.
Exactly.
I mean, he's been,
Omar's
he's been put
edit's
up on a
been
pedestal.
phenomenal.
completely.
For sure.
I think I'm locking in Mike specifically because of how happy I would be to see him win. I would be ecstatic. He just is such a likable guy. Like him winning would be so much fun. But honestly, it like both him and Omar like are in phenomenal places in their game.
Yeah.
Same with
No,
Hyde.
but
Hyde's in a
but
phenomenal place of his game.
No,
Drea's in a
I think
phenomenal
Hyde's
place
in
in
a-
her game.
Yeah, and
I think Drea is much
I'm
more
still gonna ride
precarious.
Team Drea here as
Of course.
my fandom pick. I mean that's where I stand. I'm still gonna be Team Drea. That's gonna be a depressing episode.
Oh, are
when
we
and if she
splitting
goes
our
home.
our actual pick and our fandom pick?
No, this is a
I
kale
mean, you
caveat.
don't seem to be you
This
don't
is a
seem to
Kale-
be
this is
doing
a
that.
Kale- this is Kale caveat.
Caveat.
Kale's
Kale.
caveat.
That
Well,
should be a
'cause
section.
I she's got the ammunition to do it, and I do want to believe that there's something behind the scenes going on here with her gameplay. That they're-
You keep bringing up this behind the scenes thing. There's no
It's
evidence
absurd.
to suggest
It's
that she's
absurd.
doing these production. If she was
It's
doing
so
crazy stuff
ridiculous.
behind the,
the
scenes,
evidence is that her name has not literally has not been a target.
do you truly believe that production would
what does
not
that
be
mean?
putting this into the edit like nobody's business
Simi,
if she was
that
making
was exactly my
these backroom
point.
deals?
That was exactly my point, Simi. Right? I said that
that's
three
that's
episodes ago.
their bread and butter. They love that stuff.
It's ridiculous to give someone for credit that you're not
You
even
can't.
seeing.
You can't.
It's
You're
absurd. It's just like
Kale's
not even worth
imagining it in
arguing
his head.
against.
It's Kale's.
I'm not imagining anything. You do not believe that she's
You're-
orchestrating something.
You're telling me that
It's not.
You believe
it's not even worth
you,
talking about.
Kale,
It's
that's
not
the
even worth
definition
talking
of
about.
imagination. We have no
Yeah.
evidence to suggest that she's doing these things.
The
we have an
evidence is that
equal
her
amount of
name has
evidence
not
that the
been brought
opposite
up.
is happening. We have equal
Her
amount of
name has
evidence
not
that
been
the
brought up.
opposite-
Neither has Mike's. Do you think Mike is doing these backroom deals?
He's making good
And
relationships
they're
that
putting them
we're
in the
touting.
edit.
It's
What?
not worth
And they're
it.
putting them in the edit.
I understand that they're not doing it for Romeo. I mean,
Oh, you
for
understand
for
it?
Drea.
They don't want to do it with Drea because she's the
No,
secret
no,
winner.
and that could point to Toast's edit dissection here about Mike maybe winning. I understand that, and that like you gotta cut things for time, guys. I mean, let's be
yeah,
honest.
but you think
here.
you think they're cutting actual strategic gameplay? There's no way.
no.
Simi, I
the
can't
conversation
believe that, you're
Mike
still
had with.
entertaining this.
First of all, one of the relationships that Mike had and conversations he made tonight was with Drea. So let's give Drea some credit on that front because
Who's
it's
arguing this? This is a
What?
straw man. This is there's nothing going on here. This is a
I
non-conversation.
will battle for this woman till I can't.
That's
I swear.
fine, but you don't need to go in. You don't need to go so low as to say that there's good things happening that we're not seeing too. It just you don't have to go there. There's
Stuff
enough
gets cut for time. If anything, this points to the fact that they're not
Kale,
showing this because Dre is not an important character for them in the end.
Kale, we've been
that just
saying-
might be it.
We've been saying
all
that
kidding
every.
aside. Yeah, Simi, go.
I just
You-
want to
you
say,
look-
Kale, we've been saying that every vote so far basically has been straightforward. Could that not be the reason that her name's not coming up because the votes have been easy?
I understand that, but for someone that is so powerful with as much as she has,
Do you know
to
what
avoid-
this is? This is what's called a non-falsifiable claim. There's no evidence that we could point to say that it's not happening. It's just that you don't have the evidence
you're
to
asking
support
us
that
to
it.
might be
prove
the angle I'm
non-existence.
taking.
No, because
You can't.
Kale, you have the burden of proof. You have to prove to
No,
us
I
that this is
don't.
happening.
No,
you
I
can't
don't.
You can't
No,
just say
I
that for every.
don't.
So I could tell you that right now Tori is on the beach somewhere, and every time the camera's not on her, she talks about purple elephants. And if you tell me that she doesn't do that, I'm gonna say, well, some things have to get cut on the cutting room floor.
The
We
purple
can't hear Tori
elephant is
talking about
the purple
elephants
elephant
the whole
is a
time.
restaurant down the street from you. So let's
Oh my
just
god,
be real.
that was completely subconscious. I
No,
don't know why. I
Kale,
said
no.
purple
I
elephant.
want the listeners to note that when Kale starts losing an argument, he throws in something like that to distract, get us on a new
Correct.
conversation, get us
And it
out of the
works. I
argument
was
that
distracted.
he's losing. Yeah, but I'm not going to allow that. I want the listeners to know Kale lost the argument. We're moving on.
I didn't lose shit.
Logical fallacy.
We are moving on. Let the listeners decide. Get down in the comments. Get out there. Get vocal.
Yeah,
I want to
is
hear
Kale
it.
crazy? We want to hear it.
Could the answer be yes? Could the answer not be no? The audience will decide.
You decide.
Listen, I'm excited. We were left feeling empty-handed from all of the idols last season. I'll continue to say this episode after episode.
Yes,
I
you will.
really, really, really want something to be played to a Kelly Wentworth style. Something to be played where we can absolutely just bite into something and talk about it, because a lot of the discussions and a lot of what's being shown from the things that Omar and Hai and those types of characters are doing, it's giving us a lot to talk about, but these tribals really just haven't been dramatic. So give me something. That's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah. I think we all are. I'm really excited to see where this episode goes. Like we said, I think there might be some straightforward votes ahead of us. But once we get through those, let's get through those fireworks. I'm excited to see them.
Agreed.
Totally agree.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you again for listening to this week's episode. We cannot wait to keep watching these episodes and see where this season goes. See where our predictions go. We'll see who ultimately is right, who wins these bets with the boys here. If you're listening on Apple, please rate and review. We're available on all the podcast apps. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe.
Smash that like.
Kale's been waiting for me to throw that to him the whole time. Oh my god. Yeah, like, comment. Get in the comments. Talk to us about what your thoughts are. We'd love to hear from you guys. And other than that, see you boys next week.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Peace.